Okay, everyone, good morning and welcome. Vivienne and I will be with you for about an hour. We'll leave some time for Q&A at the end. We're going to be covering a number of things today and definitely leaving some time for Q&A. If you have questions, there's a way with Zoom where you can raise your hand and that way we'll know you do have questions. Vivienne and I have started a collaboration some time ago, and after a number of years, for Vivienne to leave the corporate business and the formal public sector to raise her children, she's now basically fulfilling her passion for nurturing and empowering others, like I do as well, through coaching, mentoring, and life skill workshops. Vivienne has many things to her name. She's a Reiki practitioner. She has interest and training in chakra healing, health, nutrition, and longevity. And Awakening Feminine Power is really where Vivienne is dedicating her time today and these days to bettering the lives of young girls and women in South Africa through female empowerment and personal development. It's such an amazing pleasure to have been working with Vivienne for most of this year, actually. And I mean, I can't express how fun it is to co-create something. So I'm grateful for being here with you, Vivienne.
Thank you, Eric. So Eric brings a wealth of experience to Awakening Feminine Power. He has years, 25 plus years in working and training, mainly women in the life sciences sector. And after his own spiritual awakening and possibly 5 or more years of self-discovery, he's discovered that his sole purpose is empowering women by helping them empower themselves. Eric is also a certified rapid transformational therapy practitioner that he spends much of his time working with, helping others. And he's also passionate about helping men embrace how they can co-create with women. So it's been an interesting year. I'll tell you the short version of how Eric and I met. For me, it was a year of a lot of synchronicities. Eric and I were on an online course using the Mind Valley platform, and that is where we connected. And early on, we realized we were walking a very similar path, both in terms of our own inner work and healing, but also in where we saw ourselves going in the future and how we wanted to show up and make a difference in this world. And so, you know, a few video calls later and 1 2-hour meeting in an airport, believe it or not, Eric and I started working together, and Awaken Feminine Power is the result of this. And it's a very exciting project with our first workshops coming up in November. So thank you, Eric. This has been a great journey so far, and I look forward to the rest of it.
Thank you. I know we've already made a difference in the lives of some people, and we're looking forward to doing that some more. So what are we going to talk about? Basically, during this webinar, first again, we are going to talk about the same 5 topics that we will be covering live in Johannesburg. And the way we've structured things, we actually went from 5 to 6 days. As you can see on the schedule, we will be for 3 days in one location, and then 3 more days, the 14th to the 16th, in a second location, to give people the chance, the people who are coming to these locations, the chance to select the best for them. We will be covering 5 topics over 3 days, which means basically each topic would be roughly a half a day. There is a more detailed schedule on our website, awakeningfemininepower.org. But we'll be covering 5 topics over 3 days, which means that we will repeat one of these 5 topics, because if you divide 3 days in half, basically you have 6 time slots. So that's what we will be doing based on the feedback that we have received. One of the 5 topics has been selected to be repeated twice. There also, because many of you are not able to go to Johannesburg, a lot of Vivian's network is in South Africa and elsewhere in the world. Mine is mostly in the US. So actually we are providing remote live access to each of these, whether it's the 11 to the 13 or the 14 to the 16. You will be able to join in to the live event. That will be recording, and anybody who joins will also have the recording available. So feel free, details on the website, you can reach us if you want the details. One of the things that we have decided to do, and that is exclusively for the people who will be remotely joining, because we can't do that for people who are going to be there at the event, until the end of next week. And I do have to look at the calendar to find out what's the date next week. What are we looking at today? Until the 11th, basically, which actually I love that number. That's one of my favorite number. And you know, 11 has some very specific meaning in the spiritual world. So until October 11, for anyone who joins the 3 days, meaning the 5 topics, there will be another person that can join for free. So if you want to join the 11 to the 13, covering all 5 topics, or the 14 to the 16, and this is only for remote access, then you can work directly with me. Tell me who else you would like to invite for free, one of your friends, one of your colleagues, anybody, and that is only until midnight Pacific Standard Time on the 11th, which is the Friday of next week. That offer will end at that time. So thank you for that. Okay, the topics we'll be covering in each of these 2 workshops: self-confidence and self-esteem, and I'm going to be talking about that in a minute. Then Viviane will talk about self-love, mindfulness, meditation, and forgiveness, which is a lot to talk about. It's a lot. Then I'll talk about extraordinary relationships, couple communication. Viviane will talk again about goal setting, life project management, and powerful interview. And then we'll finish by covering limiting beliefs, controlling your mind, and transforming these limiting beliefs. So during today, we're going to talk about these topics, and then we're going to give you some tools so that at the end of this recording, you actually have tools that you can implement, and these tools are just for you for free. During the actual workshops, whether you join remotely or whether you join in Johannesburg, either way, we will be giving you a lot more tools. Of course, we're going to go much deeper into each of the topics, and at the same time, providing a lot more tools to achieve this. And I can tell you, I know Viviane and I work on these topics every day. I know I worked on my own self-love yesterday. I was helping a friend, and I made a comment at one point, but I could see hurt her feelings. And later on during the day, that action of mine made me question my self-love, made me question what I love about myself. And quickly I realized, as always, that yeah, you need to also love your mistakes. And Viviane will talk about that, so I'm not going to say anymore, but it's things that we work on every single day. So let's go ahead. So self-confidence, what does it mean? I mean, you know, where do you get it? You can go and download it from Amazon. Unfortunately, that would be good. Self-confidence is really an inside job. In a way, it is related to self-love because it's learning to like yourself. It's different from self-love. Liking yourself is really about liking the good things about you, and we all have these, and liking maybe the not so good things about you. Because none of us are perfect, and at the same time, we were born perfect as we are, which means exactly the way we are. But there's a certain image of perfection that whether it's the media, whether it's your parents, whether it's your friends, we are all perfect the way we are, but the world tends to reflect to us sometimes that we have aspects of ourselves that are not perfect. This is where we have issues or struggle, and I have had a lot of these. I'm doing a lot better, I would say, since the beginning of my awakening 5 years ago. But this is where we struggle with self-esteem and self-confidence. So bottom line, it's an inside job. What we will be discussing in more depth on that topic is really be careful how you speak to yourself, how you talk about yourself, the words that you use to describe yourself. Be aware of the stories that you create. If you, and we will talk also about vibrations. You know, there are a number of low vibrations, which are things like anger, stress, being sad, being jealous, things like that. And then higher vibration, which is grateful, forgiveness, love. If you live in a world of low vibration, meaning if anger is where you are, if sadness is where you are, then life will mirror that to you. And the mirror technique, which we'll cover in the tool section, is something that I have used, that we have used, and many people we've worked with have. But I'll share the example of someone that I convinced to use that technique back in May of this year, 2019, and her life has totally changed, not just because of that, but that was one of the triggers that caused a cascade of changes in her life. So the mirror technique is basically using that to reflect to yourself some different words so that you no longer live in that word of sadness, anger, frustration, but you live in a word of gratefulness. Vivian is going to talk in a minute or so about forgiveness. I've started myself a 7-day forgiveness practice, and I started that Monday this week, and that's another tool we'll teach. But basically, as I'm doing that, I was thinking yesterday what I need is start a grateful practice because I don't have that many things to forgive anymore, whether it's forgiving myself or forgiving other people. So that mirror technique and mirroring, projecting if you want, what you want, the life and the universe will mirror that back to you. So we look at a number of techniques to do that, as well as technique to deal with rejections, because people who haven't done their own work, and Vivian and I have done a lot of work on ourselves. I mean, that's pretty much the last 2 years, speaking for myself specifically, is all I've done. Self-discovery, self-inquiry, working on myself pretty much every single day and invested a lot of money in that. So we will talk about that, but the word, people who haven't done that work might try to tear you down, might try to bring you down in some way. So how you deal with rejection to improve your self-confidence, I will teach you 5 techniques to do that in topic number 1. So again, topic number 1 will be covered once or twice. I have to look at the detailed schedule myself from the 11 to the 13, and then it will be covered again for the second 3-day workshop from the 14 to the 16. Okay, we're going to take questions and answers at the end. I will let Vivian cover the self-love and mindfulness, meditation, and forgiveness. Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you. So I think the first thing one always has to address when we talk about self-love is not to confuse it with selfishness. It's not just about feeling good about yourself and being happy. It's really a state that you cultivate each and every time that you take action for yourself, whether it be in terms of your physical body, your mental body, or your spiritual body. So self-love really is that way of growing yourself. And it's something that expands as we practice this. And the way I see it is that mindfulness, meditation, and forgiveness are the tools we use to expand into self-love. Mindfulness, obviously, is something that people talk about quite a lot, but it's really the simple technique of being present in the moment, whatever that moment may be. And we will teach you some techniques around that. Meditation, again, sometimes has some strange connotations. People picture little gurus sitting cross-legged chanting Om. And indeed, this can work for you, but meditation can be so much more. Meditation is a way of connecting with yourself in a space of peace and mindfulness. So I personally like to use moving meditation, either walking or running. So these are a few of the techniques we will talk about in terms of expanding self-love through these practices. The other topic we'll cover in detail is forgiveness, which is one of my favorite topics, because forgiveness is the polar opposite of unconditional love. So you cannot really experience one without practicing the other. And like Eric said, in the workshop, we will teach you several techniques to get into this practice of forgiveness, because for me, it really is invaluable.
Good. Okay.
Okay,
Let me discuss the relationships topic. Before I do that, one of the things Vivian and I have not shared with you yet, and I will share from my own personal life, one of the goals of what we are doing, whether it's giving you some insights and tools, techniques today, or whether going deeper in the workshop, is to enable you to speed up your own journey, your own awakening. I have spent over the last 2 years way more than 6 figures, and unfortunately I'm speaking in US dollars, 6 figures, and I don't necessarily wish for anyone to have to do that. So things you can learn, and I've learned from others, I've learned from people. I'm thinking of someone right now, and she also has spent way more than 6 figures in her own self-discovery. She was actually, and still talks about, her twin flame relationship. I mean, I would be happy to connect you with her if you are dealing with twin flames or soulmate or karmic relationship. But I've learned a lot from her, not having to spend or invest the time and energy that she has in discovering that. And that's what Vivian and I are looking at doing for you, is sharing our own journeys, our learning, so that you can go faster on your own journey, maybe with less pain and more pleasure. Extraordinary relationship for me is, you know, I've been looking and working at a extraordinary relationship pretty much since the day I was born, and I can tell you it hasn't been easy. And I thought I had the most amazing relationship very recently, still as of early this year. And that was most likely a twin flame relationship. And we'll talk about that. There is a lot that is written about twin flame relationship. Some people believe that a twin flame relationship is so amazing because we each share the half of the same soul. Most people believe that. A few people disagree. I happen to disagree as well. I believe that a twin flame relationship, each individual has their own soul, but we are so well designed that we come together to basically trigger each other. And that was my last relationship, to trigger each other so well that we face our own shadows and learn about ourselves, and basically are able to go over beyond, if you want, our shadows and our shortcomings. And if you do end up with your twin flame, many people would say that that's the best relationship. And if you do not end up with your twin flame, you can actually end up with a relationship that is more peaceful. So the twin flame relationship is not necessarily the only relationship that you're looking for. But basically, what we'll be covering under relationships, a lot of the things that are on this slide. Trust, what does it mean? How are you aligned with someone on trust? Trust is the most important element. And we talk about that a lot, but what does it truly mean? And love, we just covered self-love. You are much better able to love somebody else if you love yourself. And loving yourself is not being selfish. But if you love yourself, you are better able to spread that abundance of love to someone else, including someone in your relationship. Honesty, and calling someone on their bullshit. I know I was guilty in my last relationship of not calling her on her bullshit. And today would be very different because I have learned and I've moved past that. And it does apply for men and women, vice versa, obviously. In my case, I was in a relationship with a woman, but same thing, an extraordinary woman, but I did not call her on her bullshit as well. That relationship is no more. And then also, as you manage, and I shouldn't use the word manage the relationship, but as you nurture the relationship, what do you make a priority? I have a number of friends, couples, that are in relationships with kids, some without kids. And sometimes I can see how their life, I'd like to say life gets in the way, how their life gets in the way of the intimacy of the couple's communication. And I'm working with them, trying to support them in any way that I can to preserve that intimacy, to preserve the communication being key. I'm in a relationship right now where communication is so much better compared to my last relationship, and that is very, very key. So the point around priority is, do you make your relationship a priority, or do you make, you know, your favorite TV show if a priority? If you, that's okay, you can do what you want, but do it consciously and make sure that you are aligned. If the TV show is the priority, it might mean that you don't have the time, the energy, or the attention to give to your partner in a relationship. Not everything can be priority. If everything is, nothing is. So we look at all these things, and also we look at conflict, how to communicate, how to resolve conflicts, many techniques that we will cover in that topic number 3 about relationships. Okay, Vivienne?
So this is another one of the topics that I'm passionate about. My background when I was in the corporate world was project management for a large corporate. And I've come to realize the importance of personal goal setting. And this is because our goals are the roadmap that help us achieve what we want to in our life. But of course, goals can also be a danger because they can put us on the proverbial hamster wheel in life. So what we're going to be teaching you is to differentiate between means goals and end goals. The means goals are more your traditional, I'd like to get X job so that I can afford that car, etc. And where ends goals are the ones we should be setting. Those are the ones that are all about our feelings, our experiences, and how we really want to live our lives. Let me just see what else I want to say. Oh, yes, that's it. So like anything in life, like you would manage your project at work, so we need to learn tools and skills to manage our attainment of our personal goals in life. So we're going to give you some ideas around that, and that's what I call life project management. Simple tricks and tips that make each day easier and in turn help us manage the attainment of those goals that are so important that we've set. Another important point, which I've called powerful interviews, but this really goes back to self-confidence, which you will also be learning, is how to present oneself, be powerful in your interactions, be confident. So many of us go out into the world and we have all the knowledge, we have all the experience, and yet we don't seem to achieve what we need to achieve, whether it be in our work environment or our relationships. And this is all around projecting yourself and your ideas and your dreams and ambitions and your communication in such a way that you can either get the job you want or the promotion you want or the relationship you want. So that's what this topic number 4 is all about. Eric?
Thank you. Thank you. And the last topic is all about our mind and our limiting beliefs. So much to say, but our mind, we have the conscious side of the mind and the unconscious side of the mind. The unconscious side of the mind really controls your belief for roughly 95% of what you do. There's a lot of research that has been done that is related to the hypnotherapy and the rapid transformation therapy from Marisa Peer. I encourage you to look at anything that Marisa Peer does. That is the certification that I have acquired, and I've done some work. So the bottom line is, be aware of your limiting beliefs. Be aware of where do they come and learn to collaborate with your mind. Your mind controls you. Your mind works with you based on very, very simple things. Your mind is hardwired to steer you away from pain and to steer you toward pleasure. However, it's a lot more efficient at avoiding pain than at steering you toward pleasure. Simple example would be if you drive on the highway, and I do drive these days, I spend time in Los Angeles, I drive on a highway called the 405, and I don't always like it because it's always traffic jams. However, if that's what you keep telling your mind, that I hate this traffic, you can be rest assured that your mind will help you. And the way your mind will help you is, in order to help you avoid going into that traffic, it might give you diarrhea as you're supposed to go on the highway, so that you don't have to do that and you can stay home and be peaceful. But is that really what you want? So you want to be careful how you talk to your mind. Your mind controls you based on two things, the words and the pictures. So we have to change the pictures and we have to change the words we tell ourselves. The other part of that is that we have to make things that are familiar unfamiliar. I used to drink coffee with sugar up until about a couple of months ago. And I had tried many years over the past few years to stop sugar because, you know, too much sugar. And I actually did it recently, but I did it again. I would go through the motions. Over the last 10 years, I did that by going through the motions, but not working with my mind. I did it again about 3 months ago, but this time I stopped the sugar in my coffee, but I also worked with my mind. I kept telling my mind that not having the sugar was what I desired, because having sugar in the coffee, it was what was familiar for me. Guess what? I don't have any sugar. I don't feel like I want any. That has actually become familiar. The difference between what I did in 3 months ago compared to the many times I've done it in the past is I've worked with my mind. I've collaborated with my mind to eliminate sugar in my coffee, and it's working. And I don't need to go back. That's the difference. That's what we'll be covering into that topic. So moving on, let's give you some tools and techniques right now. We have about another half hour to go in this session. So let's look at some tools and techniques. We're going to go back through the 5 topics, giving you tools and techniques, knowing that there will be a lot more of them during the workshops. So self-confidence, self-esteem, we've talked about that. Simple thing that you can do in terms of the words, because remember, this is related to your limiting beliefs, the words you tell yourself. Stop judging yourself. Judgment is a low vibration. I've talked a little bit earlier about the level of neutrality and all the low vibrations, anger, sadness, judgment, comparing. These are all low vibrations. The higher ones would be grateful. Even if you are well aware that there are things you'd like to change about yourself, do not focus on these. Stop judging yourself. Be grateful for the amazing things that you are. Be nice to yourself. You know, when you drive, you end up going to a meeting and you're 5 minutes late at that meeting. Rather than judging yourself and calling yourself names, putting you down because you are late, just be nice to yourself. Say, that's okay. Other people are late too, and I'm usually on time. So be nice to yourself. Praise yourself. Nothing boosts self-esteem and self-confidence like praise. Again, back to the mind. The way you feel is going to be down to the pictures and the words you tell yourself. So change these pictures, change these words. Your words create your reality. and this is very personal for me because I have parents who create their reality, and it's a very negative reality, and I have not been able yet to really encourage or inspire them to create a different reality. At the end of the day, you cannot force me to do anything. I can't force you to do anything. You have to want it for yourself. But the words that you use, and I see it every day, create your reality. So be very careful with these words. When you change the words, your reality will change. A very simple technique, and I encourage all of you to do that at the end of this call. This is a technique that's called the mirror technique. It's very simple. The picture there is a picture from Kathleen. You can read at your leisure her testimonial that was back in May of this year, May 2019. I was actually leaving a workshop myself on the phone with her for about an hour, understanding the issues in her life. And I just told her, you know, why don't you use the mirror technique? Write on your mirror, I am enough. And do that for at least 21 days. And look at it, because obviously the mirror is something you look at. That's how you change the images. Even if you don't believe in that. I mean, some of you might think, yeah, you know, whatever, I don't believe in that kind of stuff, it doesn't work. Do it, because your mind doesn't know the difference. Even if you don't believe in it, your mind will see I am enough multiple times every single day. And your mind will start to believe it, and your mind will collaborate with you, and you will start to have that feeling that you are enough, even if you don't feel that you are to start with, and even if you don't believe that it works. It's all about the mind. 95%, it comes from the subconscious part of your mind. That's a very simple technique. I encourage you to do that. Feel free to connect with Vivienne or myself with feedback, testimonials, anything that you want. Okay. The other 5 techniques that we will talk about, and there will be more than these 2 tools, obviously, but another technique we talked about dealing with rejection. The one that, so you see here 5 simple things that you can say in order to deal with rejection. The one that I like the most myself, which I sometimes use, and I've used it with my daughter recently because it needed to be done, it's basically number 4. And the way I do that is if someone says something to you in order to hurt you or in order to bring you down, I basically tell them, so it's a different version of number 4 that you can read here, but it's, you know, if somebody, so I would tell them that, you know, if somebody gives you a gift and you don't accept the gift, who has the gift? And often the person you're talking to, they have to think. So you might have to repeat the question, but eventually they say, I still do have the gift. Yes, exactly. So if I tell you you are lazy and you tell me, if I don't accept your gift, who has the gift? It's me. You don't let it in. That's basically what this number 4 is about. Yep, I hear you. That's great feedback, but I'm not letting that in. And my self-confidence and self-esteem is not being touched by that. So there's a lot more to these techniques, but you can use this technique. Try these, any of these 5. And I would encourage you to start from 1 and go progressively to 5. Obviously, 1, 2, and 3 are more gentle than 4 and 5. But try these today or tomorrow with people around you that might interact with you in less than pleasing ways and see how it works. These are techniques for you. Vivienne, I'll let you cover some techniques on self-love and self-care.
Yes, perfect. So no one will love you better more than you love yourself. And in a world where we are bombarded by this not enoughness, not good enough, not pretty enough, not strong enough, not clever enough, it takes everything you've got to hold yourself together and remain full of that self-love for yourself. We all have inherent good qualities, and we are all deserving of love, and we are all worthy. And it's just to remind ourselves of this daily. One of the techniques, again, back to what Eric was saying, we talk about the words having so much power. I saw something the other day that said that's why it's called spelling, because words themselves carry so much power. And I find one of the great techniques to manage self-care and self-love is to formulate some affirmations that are similar to, for example, I'm enough, but that really pertain to the situation you're going through. For example, I am a great mother. I'm a conscious parent and I'm doing the best I can every day. Because whatever you put behind the word I am, that is what you become. Yep. So one of the techniques for self-love is most certainly your I am affirmations. Now, the analogy of not being able to pour from an empty cup is exactly what we're talking about with self-love. It's not selfishness. It's filling yourself up first so that you have to give to your family, your friends, your colleagues. And that is the importance of it. Fill yourself up, love yourself, and you'll be able to have more than enough to share with those around you. Next slide. There we go.
I moved too fast earlier. I should have given you control.
You can move to the next one. Self-care.
Yeah. Okay. Self-care is up.
There we go. There we go. Just a couple of things on the self-care. And one of the most important ones, I think, is the first one, drop self-judgment. We all know that we will always be our own harshest critic. And in reality, the technique is to acknowledge mistakes, accept that we're not perfect, but then release it, and release it gently by telling yourself you did the absolute best you could in that moment, using the information you had at hand, the skills you had at hand, and release it. No one's perfect on this planet. We all come in the same way and we leave the same way. And we have enough judgment and criticism coming from the outside world without bringing that upon ourselves. Another important technique is setting healthy boundaries. And that is also a point here. Start with setting boundaries. Now, it took me a long time to realize how important this was. I would do everything for everyone. And what it meant is that there was not enough time for Vivian to take care of herself. So healthy boundaries are vital. Healthy boundaries are not pushing anyone away. It's simply giving yourself space to reconnect with yourself so that once again you are able to be a better mom, a better partner, a better colleague, and go about your daily life in a better manner. And finally, I think we need to take real care about overthinking. This is another way we judge ourselves. And, it's rare that life is as horrible, as tragic, as drama-filled as the scenarios we create in our own mind. So certainly one of the self-care techniques is to stop overthinking in its tracks as soon as it starts. And of course, there are many techniques for this. Simply picturing a beautiful situation or saying mantras or affirmations will help you divert your overthinking. Even breath work. I found recently that just conscious breathing is one of the things that stops the overthinking and enables us to look at things in a realistic perspective without self-judgment. Next one, Eric. Meditation and mindfulness. I think for me, if you can practice mindfulness, you won't need as much meditation. But the key to mindfulness is, and I spoke about it a bit earlier, is your conscious pause. When something triggers you or when something upsets you, the immediate reaction is to react and to attack and defend and all sorts of horrible things come out of us when we behave like that. So when someone triggers us or we're upset by a situation, to take a conscious pause, to think about it, and then respond. Respond from your heart, respond lovingly, And if you can't in that moment do that, then really it is best not to respond at all. We will learn some specific meditation and breathing and mindfulness techniques as we get into these topics in greater detail in the workshops. Again, meditation doesn't need to be the guru on his mat, like in the picture, although that is an amazing experience. Find ways to cultivate a meditation practice that works for you. There's a lot of media available online, beautiful music, guided meditations, or simply just finding inner peace, sitting outside, connecting with nature. There's so many ways to cultivate this practice of meditation and mindfulness. Personally, for me, I love moving meditation. It really works. So if I'm upset and I need to clear my head, I either go for a run or I go for a walk. And just that action, it's almost like breathing. It's so automatic. And you get into a rhythm, and that brings you into that meditative practice. Next. So forgiveness. Yes, my friends all know that this is something I'm really, really passionate about. And it's not easy. Forgiveness is a process. It is a process that can take time. It's a practice. I call it a practice because it's something we need to do every single day. And of course, the trick when it comes to forgiveness is to look at it as a gift to yourself and not something for the other person. I've seen so many times, especially with people who are really victims in horrible, horrible circumstances. You talk to them about forgiveness and they're just not ready. They say, no, that person hurt me. They should be the one who apologizes. They need to offer that, that olive leaf or that olive branch. But really, if we can realize that forgiveness is something we give to ourselves, it's a beautiful gift. Forgiveness is the way to open our hearts to unconditional love. And there are several practices. Ho'oponopono practice is one that I like, which is a mantra that has magical qualities in terms of forgiving. But it is a practice, and we need to learn those steps. We need to look at the situation with love and compassion. We need to forgive ourselves often. We need to look at ourselves through the eyes of love and compassion and forgiveness. And that goes back to our self-love. I think it all ties in. The mindfulness and the meditation and forgiveness are, in fact, the tools we use to expand and open our hearts in the case of self-love. So remember that forgiveness is not condoning another person's behavior. It's not forgetting that the situation arose. People go, I can forgive, but I won't, I'll never forget. That's right. It's not about forgiving. It's not denying that the situation took place. It's accepting all of those things. And for your own self-worth, for your own self-love, and for your own peace of mind, it's about turning that situation around into one of forgiveness and love.
Relationships, I'm going to go quickly on this one because some of you we have about 15 minutes left or so, but relationships basically are the most fertile ground for self-actualization. And that's really what relationships and communications are about. So right here, you can look at 3 practices to foster extraordinary relationships. Let go of expectations in relationship. Expectations will not be met. Expectations will create unhealthy relationships. So let go of expectations. Learn to become less reactive, like Vivienne just covered. Respond, do not react. Reacting will only lead to more anger and other types of low vibrations. And focus on yourself. You cannot change the other person. I said earlier, I cannot force my parents to change. I cannot force anybody to change. The only person that I can change is myself. So these are 3 simple practices that will go a long way toward fostering extraordinary relationships. And in terms of goal, there's always goals that are tied to relationship. The goal is to be separate, but not separated. Back to what Vivian mentioned about clear boundaries. The goal is definitely to be equal. I am doing a lot of work myself on equality, gender equality. I encourage you to look at an organization called Equality Now. They do a lot of work to bring equality, gender equality, and they look at it from the legal aspect. But Equality Now, an amazing organization. And then being open, communications, thoughtful communication, that's really the cornerstone. So these are three goals that will nurture a relationship, and at the same time will not hurt you as the individual, because a relationship is a third entity that needs to be nurtured on its own. There's more tools and techniques here. I'll just speak for a second here. Funny that it's all 111. I like the number 1, even though that is a typo, but number 1 is a great number. But give the gift of presence. You know, watching TV together with your significant partner or whoever you have a relationship with, it could be presence, but in a lot of cases, that's not presence. It's not quality time. It is time. So give the gift of presence, give the gift of quality time together with your partner. Some of the tools and techniques here, I will let Vivian describe these for goal settings and life project management and interview.
Super. So just back to our means versus ends goals. The ones we should be setting for our lives are what are known as end goals. Just to differentiate between the two, the means goals are your traditional goal setting techniques, where you talk about acquiring something specific. So you're going to want to become a manager because you need to earn a salary of X in order to afford a car. And so it goes. And you end up chasing little by little materialistic things as you move ahead. What we really need to be doing, and we're going to teach you all these techniques, is to set end goals. Now, end goals are those ones that lead to happiness, because those are the ones that are directly linked to our feelings and our experiences. And one should ideally set end goals in multiple areas of your life. For example, end goals in your relationships, end goals in your friendships, end goals when it comes to work. But simply for an example of an end goal for me is fun family experiences. Now, yes, you will say to me, but you need money for those sort of things. Absolutely. But the important point is that you're looking for an experience. And yes, you will then have a roadmap and you will work to earn the money or to attain those experiences that you desire. So the end goals are the ones who are exciting, who push you to your limits, because that is what's going to bring pleasure in your life at the end of the day. You don't want to come to the end of your life and go, well, I've got a car and a house, and I worked hard and I've got money in my bank. No, we should be having end goals around wonderful love life, and family experiences and adventures beyond our wildest dreams. And those end goals make the journey so much easier and so much attainable. Also, we talk about managing our life. We have to prioritize things in our life in order to manage various stages so that we can attain these goals that we're looking for. Much like you would manage a project at work. So you need tools and techniques and systems in places that you work on daily that gives you the time to work through what you need to work on to have a better career or plan an experience, etc., etc. So you have to change your priorities, because when everything's important, you don't have time for anything at the end of the day. You become the hamster on the treadmill, and you'll come to the end of the day and find you've achieved absolutely nothing. So you need to have a plan each and every day, a to-do list, etc. And these are some of the tools and techniques we'll be giving you so that you approach life slightly more structured. And that, yes, a plan, a goal without a plan or a map to get there is just a wish. And we don't just want to wish for these wonderful experiences, we actually want to have them.
And last but not least, topic number 5, limiting beliefs. There's a lot about that, and it interacts with the other 4 topics that we have discussed, but you can truly program your subconscious to believe that you've already attained what you desire. I recently worked, as of last week, I worked with someone that I've been working with for many months. She is a healer, and I've been working with her. And she was basically supporting me. And she mentioned that she had had poor eyesight for years, and it was getting worse. So I know enough to know that the poor eyesight is something that has to do with beliefs that she formed at some point in her life. And most of the beliefs we form them between 0 to 7 years old. And then, of course, we continue later, but these are the most important ones. Long story short, I did a 2-hour session with her to try to access her subconscious. I discovered some beliefs and some reasons back when she was 12, back when she was, I think, 8 or 9, and then all the way back to 3 years old. Events that caused her to form some beliefs that then her mind, her subconscious, has been working with, and she's in her 60s. So that I've been working pretty much for 55 years. I communicated with her subconscious in rewriting these beliefs and gave her an audio recording to listen to for 21 days. She's in the process of doing that. What is amazing is that the following day, so after our session and listening to the beliefs, to the recording, once only, she texted me to let me know that when she woke up the next morning, her glasses, which are some very thick, very powerful glasses that she was using, were feeling way too strong. And she had to go back and use old glasses that she still had that were 2 levels below. So her eyes, her cells had already started to transform within 24 hours just by changing the beliefs in the subconscious. So we will talk about that. We will do some practice together. And then if some of you have specific beliefs that you want to work on after the workshops, we can actually do specific sessions. It usually takes 1 or 2 hours. If you want to know more about that, you can look at my personal website, upgradeyourbeliefs.com, where I go more into the details of what that requires. But we will do some practices during the workshop on that. So these workshops, here are the dates again. The venues have been selected. You can join in Johannesburg physically if you want. And for many of you, feel free to join remotely. The live events will be broadcasted and recorded. The recordings will be made available to you as you joined, and they will be made available to you forever. So these techniques, you will have them for yourself and can re-access them absolutely forever. And as I've mentioned earlier in the conversation, until October 11th, for anyone who joins and registers on our website for one of the 3 days, so the 5 topics. And right now you also get the opportunity, since the current prices are based on the South African market. If you happen to be in the US, you can actually join the 5 topics of the 3-day workshop for $90 US, which is, let me tell you, an amazing bargain, because once we do, if and when we do these workshops in LA, New York City, or in the US, the 3-day workshop will probably be in the $1,000 or $2,000. You get to do that right now for $90 US. And if you register before October 11, you only have to email me to get a free attendance that you can give to anybody. Your friends, your peers, your colleagues, your parents, your kids, whoever makes sense. More details on that on our website, and definitely you can email us at afpeventinfo@gmail.com. And that's really all. Vivienne, what else would you like to share with everyone before we open it for questions?
Nothing in specific, just to say how much I'm looking forward to sharing my own journey and helping people along their journey. I think it's just something I'm passionate about, and I think we're going to do great things as a team. Thank you, Eric.
Absolutely. So I'm going to unmute everyone. If you have a question and would like to ask it live, you can do so now. If you prefer to reach us later or send us an email, you can also do that. So I'm unmuting everybody. So everybody is unmuted now. If you do have a questions, please feel free, just shout it, or I'll give you 30 seconds to a minute to think about it. What questions do you have? Logistical questions, questions on the topics, or even questions about your own journey. Anybody wants to try? Actually, try, that's an interesting word. Yoda comes to mind when I think of try. There is no try. Okay, I think we're going to leave the recording here. If you have questions, concerns, or you want more details, just email us and we will be happy to answer any of these. Let me stop the recording